Hello and welcome to a Firstpost POV. If you look right behind me, it's quite clear what we are discussing today, the pollution in Delhi. Here in the national capital, the AQI or the Air Quality Index has crossed 400 throughout this week. It was slightly less today at 399. If you walk outside, you can literally feel and smell what the problem is. There's a burning sensation in your lungs. The question is, what should people who already have diseases, for example, do in this sort of air quality? And what should normal people do to ensure that they can protect their lungs and their body when we breathe this air every day? Let me put some of these questions to my guest, Dr. Vivek Nangia, who heads the Pulmonology Department at Max Healthcare. Thank you so much, Doctor, for speaking to us on this very important topic. Let's talk about this week, where the AQI crossed 400 every day starting from Monday. To today, it's 399. I'm pretty sure we can say it's 400 again. I want to ask you, what's the immediate impact that we see on the body when the air quality suddenly goes from around 200, say, to 400 consistently? Is it shortness of breath? Is it perhaps some sort of an allergic reaction in the skin? What's the immediate impact when the air quality just shoots up like this?
See, the immediate impact would basically be on your upper respiratory tract majorly, where the patients start having cold, cough, soreness in the throat, foreign body sensation, watering from the eyes. This is because of the particulate matter, which is 10 microns and above. But a particle size less than 2.5 microns would gain an access right into your lungs and trigger off an inflammatory cascade where people can develop severe breathlessness, chest tightness, congestion, and not just that, it could also result in heart attacks. There are times when people, when the AQI levels are so high, we've seen in the past also based on certain studies as well, that whenever the AQI levels are so high, there can be acute episodes of breathlessness, resulting in bronchial asthma, exacerbation of COPD, lung infections, as well as heart attacks. So, it's not just restricted to the lungs per se, but also extends to the entire body, involving brain strokes now, which are also being attributable to the air pollution outside.
Right. Now, if you talk to people, all of them understand that pollution is going to cause a long-term harm to your body, but not a lot of people understand the science behind it. For instance, if I'm walking around in Delhi and I'm breathing in this air at 400 AQI, what happens when that air enters into my windpipe and my lungs, and how does it internally weaken the lungs? Could you explain the science behind that?
Okay. So basically, you have to understand that you need to break down the AQI level into two components. One is the particulate matter, and then are the toxic gases. Particulate matter is the matter which is suspended in the air, which you can actually see and feel as well now, and especially in your throat and in terms of smell sometimes. Particulate matter is further classified depending on their size, 10 micron and above, 5 to 10 micron, 2.5 micron, and 2.5 and below. A particulate matter size 5 micron, 10 micron and above usually gets filtered at the upper airway level, which mostly is at the nostril and at the throat level. A particle size less than 2.5 microns would go directly into your lungs and from your lungs into the bloodstream. Once it goes into the bloodstream or even inside the air sacs or the alveoli, what we call them, it triggers off an inflammatory cascade there. This inflammatory cascade can result in a lung issue, and if this spreads to the rest of the body, can also result in damage to the various other organs like the heart, the brain, the kidneys, the liver, blood sugar, diabetes. So many things are getting linked to it. So this is with regard to the particulate matter. And then you have the toxic gases like the sulfur dioxide, ammonia, carbon dioxide, ozone, carbon monoxide, ozone, nitrous oxide. All these can further result in various other toxicities to the body, and they require no filter. They go directly into your lungs and nothing can stop them from damaging the body.
Now, I know both of these are bad and they sound extremely harmful to the body, but what's more harmful for your lungs and your organs? Is it the particulate matter in the air, or is it these toxic gases that you can't see but are definitely present?
Both of them are equally harmful. And it's the inflammatory cascade which actually is triggering off and is basically involved in the lungs, causing inflammation there, causing damage to the lungs and to the rest of the body as well.
Right. Now, Delhi, as we know, is a city where a lot of people come to work. There are very few people who are from Delhi, so to speak. So if I'm someone who does not live in Delhi, I live in a city with clean air, and then I'm planning to come to Delhi, settle here and work here. 5 years down the line, when I'm breathing this consistently toxic air, what sort of long-term impact am I looking at as opposed to when I was living in my old city, which had clean air?
So first of all itself, if you see there's a reduction in your overall lifespan. There are various studies which have shown that there's a reduction in your lifespan while you're breathing such polluted air. If you remember in 2015, the president of USA, Mr. Barack Obama, was here for about 3 days, 25th, 26th, and 27th of January. It come for the Republic Day event then. And in those 3 days, when he went back and they assessed his lung functions and all, they actually predicted that his total lifespan had been reduced by 6 hours. The average life expectancy had been reduced by 6 hours in those 3 days. So imagine 2 hours per day. And believe me, at that time, the particulate matter was not more than 90, 95 or something compared to the AQI levels that we're seeing now. So in those 3 days, if he was losing it by 2 hours per day, imagine the number of hours we would be losing per day, um, considering the kind of exposure that we are getting these days. So one, of course, is reduction in the overall life expectancy. Second is direct mortality that can be linked with it. There are studies which have shown that in 2019, I think something like 1.6 or 1.7 million deaths in India occurred primarily because of air pollution. And these deaths were because of acute exacerbations in their COPDs, because of lung cancer, respiratory tract infections, and heart attacks. So,
In,
as far as the impact in 5 years is concerned, there would be significant impact in our lungs over 5 years, starting from development of asthma, COPD, interstitial lung disease. Then there's something called hypersensitivity pneumonitis that is now being attributable to the air pollution. Apart from that, lung cancer could develop in the heart. You could develop heart attacks. In the brain could be brain strokes. In fact, dementia, early dementia is also getting linked with this now. There are studies which are linking arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, which is an inflammatory disease in itself, with air pollution. Uncontrolled diabetes is getting linked with air pollution. So, if you actually see every organ, every illness related to a particular organ is getting linked with air pollution now because it's a common inflammatory cascade. Pregnant ladies are especially at risk because in them, when the child is still not born, there could be premature births, premature development of lungs, and poor immune system in the child who's not even born yet. And as children, as they grow, they start developing respiratory allergies, respiratory tract infections, and asthma in an early age. If there are studies which have actually shown that if they were to compare the lung functions of students in Delhi versus students in somewhere in South India, where in the hilly areas where the air quality is much better, there's a distinct difference between the two of them. The lung functions in the students of Delhi is poorer as compared to those down south. So it's no rocket science to understand that there's a huge impact of the poor air quality on our lungs and the entire health of a human being, actually.
right. You mentioned two categories there, children and pregnant women. I'm wondering in your practice, as well as in your conversations with other doctors, which demographic are you seeing coming in and getting hospitalized for pollution-linked diseases more? Are they children? Are they the elderly? Is there a gender-skewed impact in the way pollution affects people in Delhi?
So I'm an adult pulmonologist, so I, encounter more of the adult population, the elders especially, who at this time of the year, in any case, are more prone, more susceptible to developing colds, flus, and infections. Pneumonias also become more common in winter. And because of the air pollution, the pneumonias become even more common than they usually would in the past. So we deal more with the elderly population and also especially the adults and the adolescents who are moving out in this weather and being exposed to the air pollution. See, we also need to understand that when you're working out or exercising outdoors, the volume of air that you're taking literally doubles or probably is 1.5 times the volume of air that you take under normal circumstances. So if you're breathing 1.5 times more than at normal rate, so the amount of polluted air that's going inside is also 1.5 times higher than it normally would be. So we are dealing with the crowd which actually moves out and gets exposed to the polluted air.
Right. Would you then suggest that it's better for people to try to stay indoors as much as they can? I know working out is important, but working out outside perhaps is something that people should rethink in this weather?
So first of all, this is a time where you should completely restrict your outdoor movement to bare minimum. And there's no question of performing exercises outdoors or being involved in any kind of strenuous physical activity like sports marathons, games, and all of that. Uh, the elders should also go away from the concept of early morning walks because the smog is the worst thing to get exposed to. It is built up overnight, and at that moment, there's a huge collection of smoke as well as the fog, which is really very harmful for our health. So exercising indoor is definitely a good idea, but again, you need to ensure that the air quality indoors is also good. Otherwise, if your doors and windows are open and is the same air that's outside and is inside too, then there is no point actually. And if you actually compare, there are studies which have shown that the AQI levels inside the houses, some of the houses can be 8 to 10 times higher than what is outside. So we need to take care of indoor air quality as well.
That actually brings me to my next question about air purifiers. They're flying off the shelves right now in Delhi. What do studies show about their effectiveness? Am I supposed to keep them on throughout inside a room? Is it safe to be inside a room that is circulated by these air purifiers? What does the science say about these machines and their effectiveness when the AQI is as high as 400, 500?
So, the common logic would be that you use an air purifier in your house, the AQI levels come down inside the houses, and that would have a good impact on your lungs, on your overall health. But unfortunately, there are no long term studies which have shown that there is a significant benefit with the use of air purifiers. Air purifiers do definitely bring down the impurities in the air, but unfortunately, the studies have not been conducted so far which can give us a direct link in the improvement in lung functions with the use of air purifiers. Having said that, I would still feel that even if those 8-10 hours that you're at home in the night sleeping, if you get to breathe good air, it can't harm you. One is that. Second is especially in people who are already prone, especially the high risk group like the elders, the children, the pregnant ladies, and those who already have an underlying lung disease like asthma, COPD, ILD, or an underlying heart disease, kidney disease, brain disease. They could at least be using air purifiers at home and be breathing good air. It can't do you harm. If at all, it will reduce the inflammatory levels in the lungs and let the immune system in the lungs focus on other issues than tackling the polluted air.
Right. My next question is about masks, and there are two parts to it. I've seen people wear all kinds of masks outside, but I'm pretty sure not every mask is going to help you with the pollution. So which mask should people be using, and how often should they be thinking about changing them? Because I'm assuming masks have filters, and they will have to be swapped out.
So, the answer to that is very straightforward and simple, that technically no mask prevents you from doesn't provide you complete protection from the the polluted air outside. But if we were to use a mask, then I would suggest we use an N95 mask. N95 mask is able to take care of 95% of the 2.5 micron and smaller particulate matter outside. But a particle size less than that would be dealt with by a zero point 0.3 micron mask now, which is also available. But again, it takes care of only the particulate matter, but does not take care of the toxic gases. Again, having said that, some protection is always better than nothing at all. It's like when it's raining heavily outside, you carry an umbrella, you wear a raincoat, and yet some bit of it some bit of yours would still get wet, like your feet, your shoes. So, but then that's a bargain. That's okay. That's a situation where you deal with.
Right.
And so if you have to use a mask, then N95 mask. There are now washable, reusable N95 masks also available, which you could use.
Right. Now, we've heard some doctors advise something extreme, which is that if you have certain underlying conditions, you should try to stay away from Delhi if you can until the AQI improves. Who would you suggest this advice is for? What sort of disease, if people have, should they think about relocating from Delhi because the impact of that pollution would be so high?
So again, it'll be the highly vulnerable group, although the suggestion is not very, I would say, possible to comply with for everybody really. It isn't easy and not a practical suggestion because nothing will change in 2 to 3 weeks' time. The winters have just started and we all know from our past experience that this kind of an AQI level persists till almost February, March, or even longer at times. So it will be the highly vulnerable group that would benefit by moving out. And when I say highly vulnerable, they basically include those people who are 65 plus, less than 5 years children, pregnant ladies, and those suffering with any kind of comorbidity, be it lung, heart, brain, kidneys, liver, any comorbidity, or any kind of cancer, or if they're on immunotherapies, on long-term steroids, long-term chemotherapies. So, those are the patients who definitely would benefit from it.
Right. Now, finally, let me just ask you about how the city and its public health infrastructure is prepared for something like this, because this isn't a new problem. We've seen this for more than a decade now. Yet, do you think the public health infrastructure in Delhi is capable of handling illnesses that arise due to pollution, to give the adequate amount of awareness to the people and to give them enough precautions to ensure that it doesn't worsen? Is the public health infrastructure prepared to handle a crisis of this scale?
Well, if we could handle the crisis of COVID-19 so well, I think this is not as much of a problem for us to handle truly. We are fully geared up and fully prepared to handle something of this magnitude. The only thing is we are lucky that it does not result in acute, so much of an acute issue. Acute issue is only restricted to a subset of population, which is the high risk group. It's the chronic impact, the long-term impact that is more harmful. Acute can still be managed easily.
Right. Well, let me just say, we've just been playing out some of those visuals there, and you can barely see the India Gate, and that's how polluted Delhi has been this week. Today, the AQI was 399, just a stone throw away from 400, which is the severe category. We hope things improve, and we hope that people listen to the advice that you gave, especially the people with underlying illnesses and comorbidities. We hope you stay safe this winter in Delhi. Thank you so much, Dr. Vivek Nangia, for speaking to us on Firstpost.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Want the facts?
The latest developments?
News that gets straight to the point.
Well, we've got all three just for you. This is Firstpost Live, a brand new show, your window into what really matters.
Don't miss it.